For some reason, the Audi TT has always been lumbered with that scathing hairdresser's car label, although anybody who's driven the first or second generation TT with a measure of vigour will know that that's quite an unfair description. Last year, Audi launched a third generation TT with keener looks and sharper dynamics. But for those who want even more, there's this car, the Audi TTS. The S in the TTS badge is short for sport, and it's an apt designation. Compared to the standard model, the TTS is more performance-focused, not only in terms of its extra power, but also as far as the chassis setup is concerned. It's not as racy as Audi's RS models, but a lot sharper than the standard model. In other words, it's a sports car that wants to be taken a bit more seriously. And it certainly looks the part. The latest TT looks more masculine and more aggressive than its predecessor. This TTS is even sportier and more menacing, and even though the differences are quite subtle, they are very effective, focusing on the dynamic capabilities of the car. That emphasis on all things fast means the TTS creates a lot of expectations, even before you've got behind the wheel and hit the start button. Even though the exterior changes are subtle, they make a telling difference. The bolder grille, bigger air intakes, larger wheels, a 10mm lower stance, and the rear diffuser with its big bore exhausts all promise extra urge. It's a theme that continues inside the coupe. The TTS shares this rather nice cockpit with the standard TT, but with some exclusive additions, including these high-backed sport bucket seats with Alcantara inserts, as well as a sprinkling of TTS badges. What has remained the same, though, is the instrument panel, which now is a so-called virtual cockpit, replacing analog instruments with a TFT display. While space and practicality aren't likely to be high on the typical TTS buyer's shopping list, the two-door does offer a reasonable boot of 280 litres, which can be significantly extended by folding the rear seat backs flat. Those seats are fairly useless anyway, as they offer almost no legroom. The rest of the cabin treatment is cutting-edge Audi with a certain elegant restraint that looks smart and benefits ergonomics. But let's take a look under the bonnet. It still puzzles me why South African buyers have to make do with less power than their German counterparts when it comes to the TTS or the S3 for that matter. Power output here 210 kilowatt, which is not to be sneezed at, but it's 18 kilowatt less than the German model. In both instances though, the torque remains the same at 380 Newton meters. The gearbox is a 6-speed S-tronic dual clutch transmission, and quattro all-wheel drive is standard. The S-tronic gearbox is an older generation design, and while it's quick and slick when driving the TT with intent, it's not as refined around town. Like our S3 Cabriolet long-termer, it wavers between first and second gears and is slow to react to throttle input when pulling away. That's a pity, because the rest of the package is very dynamic indeed. As much as the TTS is a handsome car, the inherent character is focused on performance, and it is a very quick machine indeed. The 0 to 100 time just under 5 seconds, top speed 250 kilometers an hour, and it gets off the mark like a scalded cat. However, it's the handling that impresses most. A nice, positive, sharp, accurate steering, and the quattro all-wheel drive system means that turn-in is nice and neutral, handling very grippy, and not as stodgy as previous quattro models. As you'd expect of an S car, the TTS has a tauter, stiffer ride than its normal TT sibling, further amplified by the 10mm lower ride height and the 19-inch wheels. It adds to the immediacy of the driving experience, but it's accompanied by an unusually conspicuous suspension noise that can be disconcerting. Running in dynamic mode, the TTS shines brightly on a track like Midval Raceway, linking plenty of grip to confidence-inspiring brakes and a crisp throttle response. The latest third-generation TT is the best yet, and so it follows that this TTS should be even better. And the good news is that it is a better car if you like your motoring hard and racy. It's also a much more authentic sports car, and it does express the current state of the motoring art. Best of all, I suppose, is that these cars are limited in stock, so one could even call buying this car an investment. A lively engine and tenacious grip are the key ingredients of a car that also offers excellent brakes and head-turning looks. The cabin makes for a great driving office, but that price tag makes the standard TT look like the better deal, and the hesitance of the gearbox at slow speeds and pullaways is disappointing. Watch a video clip of a full lap of Mitval behind the wheel of the Audi TTS on our website at www.rpmtv.co.za.